Hey guys, thanks for clicking on my face. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and this is my review of Mr. Malcolm's List. Yeah. So, this was on iTunes recently. I don't know if it still is, depending on when this releases and how long that sale lasts for. It's one of those 99-cent things I picked up for a rental, and it has audio description. So, that's why I did it. Wasn't really interested in seeing this film, to be totally honest. When it came out in theaters, people were like, oh, it's kind of like a Bridgerton thing. And I was like, cool. Knocking off Bridgerton in cinemas, maybe not the best way. Anyway, I'm a blind film critic, so I review films with audio description, which is why we're here. So, in case you didn't figure that out. What is Mr. Malcolm's List? Is this like Mr. Harrigan's phone? Like, are these just people's things that are we making a series of movies where it's Mr. Somebody's something this year? This is a period piece. I believe the year was 1818 that they gave in the thing when they opened with this very Bridgerton-y narration. Very Lady Whistledown at the beginning of the film. To kind of catch people up to speed as to what's going on. So yeah, I get the Bridgerton reference. Plus the film uses diverse casting. So apparently if we do anything with non-traditional casting now, it's just going to be called Bridgerton or Hamilton. It's just depending on what it is. So, Mr. Malcolm's List does the same thing. It uses actors who wouldn't necessarily be in these roles if we were watching these characters in 1818, but it doesn't matter because the story is not about anything about that. The story is not about race at all. It doesn't address it at all. Like Bridgerton doesn't address race. It doesn't. Nobody cares. This is a world in which nobody cares about that stuff. So it's just a light, fluffy world where men suck. This guy, this Mr. Malcolm, he's out on a date with this Julia, who is kind of obnoxious. If we're being honest, I mean, we're supposed to kind of feel both ways for her. As the film progresses, you feel kind of like, I mean, she has a point, but also she needs some, like, self-reflection, you know? I mean, she needs to realize that there was something to the list. But she's right. At the same time, it's very odd. It's mixed messaging on her character, because you both root for and against her simultaneously. As the film progresses. But he's taken Julia to the opera. He's friends with her brother, cousin, I don't know, some relation, and she's kind of vapid, and he's looking for something that's not. So she makes some comment about foreign operas, and he's like, "Oh, you don't like Verdi?" And she's like, is that the singer on stage? And he's like, no, that's the composer. So that's the kind of character you're dealing with here. But she's, he ends up not choosing her. And I guess, like, when you take a lady out socially in public in 1818, it better be because you plan on marrying her. Like, no one's allowed to date, apparently, anymore. You can't, like, go for a trial run. Because she's like, you ruined me. I've been spurned in public. And she's like really upset. And then she finds out that it's because he has this list of things that she fell short on, that she was left wanting, you know? And this causes her to reel even more, which causes her to come up with a plan to get back at Mr. Malcolm and his lists. So she calls in her friend from the country, who we also have seen before. I say that this is not the first time you've seen her in the film by this point, but we're introduced to her earlier as she turns down a man's advances, a man that is considerably older than her, um, and thinks that she's like destitute, but and needs the support of a wealthy older man to take care of her and provide for her. One of those stuffy old British dudes. And she's like, no, get out of here. So she comes in to meet her friend Julia, which the fact that these two people are friends that's the first leap in logic that you're going to have to take this film, because they're two totally different characters. Like opposites, like how on earth did these two people come together to meet? How are they friends? But as the film progresses, she uses her friend, who is the film's star, is played by is Frida Pinto, is the one who is tasked with wooing Mr. Malcolm with the hopes of breaking his heart. So they structure her and give her all of the tips and tricks so that she can check off all the boxes on Mr. Malcolm's list, and then he'll be like, oh, you're the one, and she'll be like, fuck you. And you feel like, wait a minute, isn't this a teen comedy? At some point, I feel like this feels like a teen comedy to me. It's very, I realized this plot was like, I was like, if you took these people out of England right now and put them into high school, you would have a teen comedy. That's what this is. It's somehow it's just, they took like She's All That and they made like a Bridgerton remake of it. It's very obviously something that I'm sure somebody's watching it and going, oh, we could put teenagers in this. Yep. And they probably could, and it would work really well. So, but this is just fluffy bullshit. It's fine for what it is. It is exactly what you think it is. It has exactly where you think it's going. It is airy. It's fine. It's unoffensive. It follows a formula as far as romantic comedies go. It does everything it's supposed to do, except at the ending, it ends so abruptly. It's obnoxious. It ends in the rapid fire succession, almost like they shot the movie and then they were like, wait a minute, the studio says we only have 60 seconds left. And then they're like, fuck. And then they had to the ending is so rushed and then it just kind of ends. I will say though that due to the audio description, we sitting through the credits was actually kind of fun this time around, because there are a lot of drawings that sort of explore the characters and sort of like what happened to them afterwards, after the abrupt ending, where it's just like, oh, that was it? Okay, we're moving on. Cool. Anyway, so yeah, there are these drawings that get described to us because we have narration, and the narration is good, and it really helped. So it's a period piece, so you end up getting descriptions of, when people are wearing things, when people are hiding behind masks, when people are have feathers. There's a guy that gets tickled by a feather and bothered by a feather that's on a girl's dress, and so there's some non-visual cues in there as well. I mean, visual cues that are in there as well that we wouldn't get otherwise. So, definitely watch this with audio description so you can get the full experience. I would guess, just because of the simplicity, that, if for some reason it wasn't working or you could probably trudge through this, only because that's how formulaic this film is that you kind of can feel where it's going. But when you have a film that's set in 1818, you want the richness of the experience. If this film was set today, there would be nothing to it. It would just be, you could see where, I know where the scene is going. I've seen far too many romantic comedies to not know where this is going, I mean, as soon as the plot was presented, I knew she was not going to spurn him. You know, like, these two are going to end up falling in love, and then the best friend is going to be like, "Wait, you love him? I cannot believe that. Who is Verdi? Nobody's explained this to me." You know, so, but that it just goes exactly where you think it's going to go. Sorry, that's a spoiler, but this one spoils itself. It just is. It's just so bland and obvious. And that could be fine. People love that kind of stuff. So I say sometimes stick to the formulas. Sometimes the formula works. One of the things I didn't like, though, was the guy playing Mr. Malcolm. I thought he was boring. Like, as far as... I mean, he has this huge list about, like, making people interesting, and I thought all of the other characters in the film were more interesting than him. Usually the male protagonist in a romantic, he must be, like, really hot. Like, I mean, that's the only reason I can think of him being cast in this film, because he's not good in this. He has no charm. He has no substance. He's not, there's nothing about his performance, at least vocally, that would suggest that he would make anybody swoon. So I'm guessing he is like the hottest guy on the face of the planet, or this film doesn't work at all. But I didn't like Mr. Malcolm. So that was, that's why this film's getting a little bit of a lower score, when you see that I'm giving Mr. Malcolm's List a C+. We're barely crossing the threshold into slightly a thumbs up on that one. It is what it is, and I think people could like this. Although, I don't know, not everybody likes formulas. So this is formulaic to a T. That's it for me today. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, so if you could subscribe, that would be amazing. Also, I have a website, macthemovieguy.com, where you can check out the rest of my stuff. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org, and it'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the adna.org. That's the adna.org. And you can look up and see who is narrating what. I do believe this was narrated by Laura Post. Just for point of reference. And she did a lovely job. So, thank you. I have to review something else now for you guys. So I will see you on the other side.